Alone Together by Catherine Bentley. This is a poem she wrote about herself and she's neurotypical and her ASD partner. It's called The Cactus and the Rose. A long time ago, I was a rose and you were a beautiful, strong, and reliable cactus. I loved your strength, your confidence, and your appearance, but I found it hard to live with you in the desert. You wanted me to suit you and started to cut off my green leaves. The ground in the desert was dry, the climate harsh, and I desperately needed water to live. Slowly, I started to wither and lose my flowers. I missed the nice garden soil, the fertilizer, and all the other colorful plants, but somehow I felt that I didn't fit into the garden environment anymore. My remaining leaves had become together, and I almost looked like a cactus. I learned to ignore the harsh sun and the sandstones. I stopped to feel thirsty. In fact, I stopped to feel much at all. That was easier on one hand, but sometimes I remembered how I used to enjoy the refreshing raindrops on my leaves after a morning shower, or the gentle touch of a butterfly passing by. I felt strange there next to you in the desert. I had no idea that you were a cactus. I wasn't aware that this plant existed. I was confused and desperately tried to turn you into a rose. That must have been so difficult for you. You tried to be one, and as long as you did everything like a rose, you were loved by me and all the other roses. But as soon as you behaved like a cactus, everybody turned away from you. Finally, you gave up and avoided all gardens. You became even more of a cactus. Why should you make an effort when all you got was resentment for not being what everybody else wanted you to be? You retired back into solitude, finding your own company more pleasant than being with others. The roses didn't only turn away from you, they also left me out. After all, we didn't have much in common anymore. I was troubled and withered plant, no fun to be with. They wanted me to spend their days talking about different fertilizers, a topic of which I had nothing to contribute. So I joined you in your solitude and learned to gain strength from within myself. Oh yes, I missed my colorful times in the garden because as much as you will always be a cactus, I will always be a rose. One day I found a book on cactuses. I gave it to you to read, and we both agreed that the description of this plant matched you perfectly. You seemed so relieved to know that you were not just an unusual rose, but a beautiful, strong, and resilient cactus. I was overjoyed too because I realized that a cactus has different ways to show love. All those times when I felt so cold and lonely, I was actually treasured by you. It just wasn't easy for me to see. There are lots of books on cactuses, but there are not any specific ones on roses. I promise I'll never give up trying to understand the needs and joys of a cactus. All I hope for is that you are prepared to learn about roses and let me be one. I need to be what I am as much as you need to be what you are. Instead of trying to turn each other into the same plant, we can learn to accept our differences. After all, I admire your strong cactus features when we first met, and I'm sure that you were taken by my colorful rose petals. Now, I'm not blooming as much as I once did, but my roots are still there in the ground, and I'm sure that with a bit of water and fertilizer, I will be able to flower again, maybe even more because I will not only be a colorful rose, but also a strong one. If we keep nurturing each other, we will be able to turn our relationship into something special, and our children will grow up with reliable, strong, and interesting characteristics of the cactus, as well as the wild, sensitive, and colorful features of the rose. Let's be what we are and enjoy it. I wish you good luck in your neurodiverse relationships. Many books like this, many people have found very useful and insightful because it helped them to feel less alone together.